In February 2025, former President Donald Trump, having returned to the White House for a second term, made headlines with a provocative post on his social media platform, Truth Social. Following his administration's decision to rescind federal approval for New York City's congestion pricing program, a policy designed to reduce traffic congestion and fund public transit by charging drivers a toll to enter Manhattan's Central Business District, Trump declared, "Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan, and all of New York, is saved. Long live the King." The White House amplified this statement by sharing a computer-generated image of Trump wearing a golden crown on a mock Time magazine cover, captioned with the same phrase, "Long live the King." This self-reference as "King" sparked immediate backlash, particularly from New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who responded with a fiery rebuke, emphasizing that New York hasn't labored under a king in over 250 years, and we sure as hell are not going to start now. This incident encapsulates several key themes in contemporary American politics: the tension between federal and state authority, the polarizing nature of Trump's rhetoric, and the symbolic weight of monarchical imagery in a democratic republic. To understand the significance of this event, we must first explore the congestion pricing program itself, the political motivations behind its rescission, the reactions from key figures like Hochul, and the broader implications of Trump's self-aggrandizing language. The congestion pricing program. Background and purpose: New York City's congestion pricing program, officially launched on January 5, 2025, was a landmark policy aimed at addressing chronic traffic congestion in Manhattan's Central Business District, south of 60th Street. The program imposed a $9 toll on most passenger vehicles entering this zone during peak hours, with a reduced toll overnight. The initiative had multiple objectives: reducing traffic congestion, lowering air pollution, and generating revenue to fund improvements to the Metropolitan Transportation Authority's (MTA) subway and bus systems, which are critical to the city's economic and social fabric. Origins and development: congestion pricing in New York was decades in the making, with advocates, academics, and transit officials dedicating thousands of hours to its planning. The policy was modeled on similar systems in cities like London, where cordon pricing has successfully reduced traffic and pollution. The Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act of 1991 laid the federal groundwork for such programs, allowing states to implement congestion relief initiatives under the Value Pricing Pilot Program. New York's plan received key federal approval in the final weeks of the Biden administration in November 2024, enabling its implementation. The program was expected to generate significant revenue, $500 million annually, according to MTA projections, while also reducing the number of vehicles entering Manhattan's congested core. Early data from the program's first month, January 5 to 31, 2025, showed promising results: $37.5 million in net operating revenue, a 13% drop in daily vehicle entries, from 640,000 to 560,000, faster travel times, increased subway and bus ridership, and a 10% rise in yellow cab trips. These outcomes were touted by supporters, including Hochul, who noted that traffic is down and business is up. Political challenges: despite its potential benefits, congestion pricing was politically contentious. Critics, including some New York and New Jersey residents, argued that the tolls burdened commuters, particularly those from outside Manhattan, and could displace traffic to surrounding areas like the Bronx or Staten Island. New York's House Republicans, for instance, urged Trump to kill the program, describing it as oppressive taxation. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy also opposed the plan, citing its impact on New Jersey commuters. Governor Hochul herself had a complex history with the program. In June 2024, she paused its implementation, citing economic concerns and the potential electoral impact on Democratic House candidates in the November 2024 elections. This decision was widely criticized by transit advocates, who saw it as a political maneuver to protect vulnerable Democratic seats. After the election, with Republicans gaining control of Congress and Trump returning to the presidency, Hochul reinstated the program with a reduced $9 toll, down from $15, framing it as a cost-saving measure for New Yorkers. Trump's decision to rescind congestion pricing on February 19, 2025, the Trump administration, through Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, issued a letter to Governor Hochul announcing the rescission of federal approval for the congestion pricing program. The letter argued that the program exceeded the scope of the value pricing pilot program, claiming it was primarily a revenue-raising scheme for the MTA rather than a congestion reduction effort. This move fulfilled a campaign promise Trump had made to eliminate the tolls, which he viewed as an unnecessary burden on drivers. Trump's Truth Social post hours after Duffy's letter, at 1:58 p.m. on February 19, 2025, Trump took to Truth Social to celebrate the decision, posting, "Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan, and all of New York, is saved. Long live the King." The White House quickly amplified this message by sharing a computer-generated image of Trump on a fake Time magazine cover, wearing a golden crown with the New York City skyline in the background, captioned with the same phrase. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to the post with a 100 emoji, signaling approval. The self-reference as "King" was not merely a rhetorical flourish but a deliberate invocation of monarch-like authority, which clashed with the democratic principles of the United States. The imagery of a crown and the phrase, "Long live the King," evoked a sense of absolute power, prompting immediate criticism from political opponents and observers. Legal and political fallout. The Trump administration's move to rescind federal approval was met with swift resistance. Within hours, the MTA filed a lawsuit in the Southern District of New York to block the order, arguing that the program complied with federal law and had already demonstrated success. Hochul vowed to keep the toll cameras operational until a federal judge ruled otherwise, declaring, "The cameras are staying on." Early indications suggested that the MTA's legal challenge had merit, as the Trump administration's justification for rescinding approval was criticized as sloppy analysis and lacking a strong legal basis. The deadline for New York to halt toll collection was initially set for March 21, 2025, but was later extended to April 20 and then May 21, 2025, as the legal battle continued. Duffy warned of serious consequences if New York did not comply, hinting at potential cuts to federal transportation funding. However, Hochul and the MTA remained defiant, citing the program's early success and its importance to New York's economy and infrastructure. Kathy Hochul's response: a defiant stance. Governor Kathy Hochul emerged as the most prominent critic of Trump's King remark and his administration's attempt to dismantle congestion pricing. Her response was both rhetorical and strategic, blending historical allusions with a defense of state sovereignty. The press conference at Grand Central Terminal on February 19, 2025, hours after Trump's Truth Social post, Hochul held a fiery press conference at Grand Central Terminal, flanked by MTA Chairman John O'Lieber and other officials. She condemned Trump's move as an attack on our sovereign identity and an attempt to treat New York commuters as roadkill on his revenge tour. Holding up the mock Time magazine cover featuring Trump in a crown, Hochul declared, "New York hasn't labored under a king in over 250 years, and we sure as hell are not going to start now." She invoked the Revolutionary War, referencing figures like Alexander Hamilton and the state's history of resisting monarchical rule. Hochul's rhetoric was calculated to resonate with New Yorkers' sense of independence and pride. She emphasized that the fight was not just about congestion pricing but about defending New York's right to govern itself without federal overreach. "We are a nation of states," she said, arguing that Trump's actions undermined the principles of federalism. Her defiance was met with cheers from transit advocates and supporters at the press conference. Meetings with Trump. Hochul's response was not limited to public rhetoric. She met with Trump in the Oval Office on February 21, 2025, to advocate for the congestion pricing program, presenting him with a booklet detailing its early successes. The meeting, described as quasi-normal and lasting over an hour, covered topics like infrastructure, immigration, and energy. But Trump remained unmoved on congestion pricing. Hochul later acknowledged that the issue would likely be decided in court, expressing confidence in the MTA's legal challenge. In a subsequent meeting on March 14, 2025, Hochul continued to press the case for congestion pricing, while also discussing energy issues like nuclear power and the Constitution pipeline. Despite her efforts to find common ground, Trump's opposition to the tolls remained firm, reflecting his broader political strategy of appealing to voters who viewed congestion pricing as an economic burden. Political risks. Hochul's confrontational stance carried political risks. By escalating the rhetoric and aligning herself with Manhattan Democrats, she risked alienating voters in swing districts, particularly in Queens and the Bronx, where support for congestion pricing was weaker. Her decision to delay the program in 2024 had already drawn criticism from transit advocates, and her current defiance of Trump could further polarize her base as she faced potential primary and general election challenges in 2026. Backlash to the King, Remark. Trump's self-reference as King, and the White House's amplification of the imagery sparked widespread criticism, not only from Hochul but also from other political figures and the public. Political reactions. New York City Council member Justin Brannan condemned Trump's statement, linking it to the administration's decision to drop a federal corruption case against Mayor Eric Adams. He argued that the federal government lacked the authority to dictate New York's policies, stating, "Doesn't matter what you think of congestion pricing, federal government doesn't get to make this decision." New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. While Murphy opposed congestion pricing due to its impact on New Jersey commuters, he did not directly address Trump's King remark, focusing instead on praising the administration's move to rescind the program. Media and commentators, outlets like The Guardian and MSNBC criticized Trump's monarch-like imagery, with MSNBC noting that it reflected his reckless but strong leadership style. The Washington Post argued that Trump's legal justification for rescinding congestion pricing was weak, suggesting that his rhetoric was more about political theater than substantive policy. Public sentiment. Public opinion on congestion pricing was divided. A March 2025 survey found that 42% of New York City residents supported the tolls, while 35% backed Trump's efforts to eliminate them. Statewide, support was weaker, with 40% favoring the program's termination. On X, posts reflected a mix of sentiments, with some users celebrating Trump's decision and others mocking his King remark. The White House's decision to share the mock time cover drew particular attention, with users like at Breaking 9/11 and at Autism Capital amplifying the image, which fueled both support and derision. Historical context of monarchical imagery. Trump's King remark was not an isolated incident but part of a pattern of grandiose rhetoric. During his first term, he frequently used authoritarian language, such as joking about being president for life or praising foreign leaders like Xi Jinping for consolidating power. The King comment tapped into a broader critique of Trump's leadership style, which opponents argued veered toward autocracy. In a country founded on rejecting monarchy, evidenced by the Revolutionary War and the Constitution's emphasis on checks and balances, such imagery was particularly provocative. Hochul's reference to the Revolutionary War and Alexander Hamilton was a deliberate counterpoint, invoking the United States' democratic origins. By framing Trump's actions as an attack on our sovereign identity, she positioned herself as a defender of American values against what she portrayed as an overreach of federal power. Broader implications. The King controversy and the battle over congestion pricing highlight several critical issues in American politics. Federal versus state authority. The conflict underscores ongoing tensions between federal and state governments, particularly in areas like transportation and environmental policy. The Trump administration's attempt to rescind congestion pricing, despite its approval under the Biden administration, raises questions about the limits of federal authority over state initiatives. The MTA's lawsuit and Hochul's defiance suggest that this issue may set a precedent for how states resist federal overreach in the Trump era. The politics of infrastructure. Congestion pricing is not just a local issue but part of a broader debate about how to fund and manage urban infrastructure. The program's success in reducing traffic and generating revenue highlights its potential as a model for other cities, but its political vulnerability illustrates the challenges of implementing innovative policies in a polarized environment. Trump's opposition aligns with a populist appeal to drivers, while Hochul's defense reflects a progressive push for sustainable urban planning. Trump's rhetorical strategy. The King remark is consistent with Trump's brand of political communication, bold, provocative, and designed to dominate attention. By invoking monarchical imagery, he reinforced his image as a decisive leader while antagonizing opponents, ensuring that the conversation remained centered on him. The White House's decision to amplify the remark with a mock time cover further illustrates the administration's embrace of theatricality over traditional governance norms. Hochul's political positioning. For Hochul, the congestion pricing fight is a defining moment. Her forceful response to Trump signals a shift from her earlier attempts to avoid direct confrontation, possibly reflecting the political realities of a Republican-controlled Congress and White House. However, her earlier pause of the program and her decision not to remove Mayor Eric Adams, despite his legal troubles, complicate her image as a principled leader. Analysis: the symbolism and stakes. Trump's self-reference as king is more than a rhetorical flourish, it is a calculated move to project strength and provoke reaction. In a democratic system, such language is inherently divisive, as it challenges the egalitarian principles enshrined in the Constitution. Hochul's response, invoking the Revolutionary War and New York's history of resistance, effectively countered Trump's narrative by appealing to democratic ideals and state pride. The congestion pricing program itself is a microcosm of broader debates about urban policy, climate change, and economic equity. Its early success suggests that it could serve as a model for other cities, but its vulnerability to political interference highlights the fragility of progressive policies in a polarized climate. The legal battle between the MTA and the Trump administration will likely determine the program's fate, but the rhetorical battle between Trump and Hochul has already shaped public perceptions. Conclusion: the February 2025 controversy over Trump's king remark and the rescission of New York City's congestion pricing program is a multifaceted story of policy, personality, and power. Trump's provocative rhetoric and the White House's amplification of monarchical imagery sparked a fierce backlash, led by Governor Kathy Hochul, who framed the issue as a defense of New York's sovereignty and democratic values. The ongoing legal battle over congestion pricing, coupled with the political fallout, underscores the challenges of implementing innovative urban policies in a deeply divided political landscape. This incident also reflects broader themes in American politics. The tension between federal and state authority, the role of infrastructure in addressing climate and economic challenges, and the enduring impact of Trump's polarizing leadership style. As the courts decide the fate of congestion pricing, the rhetorical clash between Trump and Hochul will continue to resonate, shaping the political narrative in New York and beyond.